Well, hey guys, I wanted to welcome you to the first Win at Work and Home podcast. You know, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I'm a follower of Gary Vaynerchuk. If you haven't heard of him, you need to check him out. But, you know, he talks about, you know, the power of podcasts and the power of voice and how that's going to be so much more relevant as we try to save time. So I know it's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I'm excited to be able to, you know, start this podcast with you. You know, really this podcast is about helping individuals define what true success looks like for them and then helping them design it in their life. You know, if you've been following me on, you know, let's say Facebook or Instagram, whatever it may be, and maybe on YouTube, you know that I'm extremely passionate about helping individuals define and design their success. I mean, it's so interesting for me. You know, if I'm having a bad day and I just don't feel good, you know, and this may be for a lot of people too, you know, if I post something positive on Facebook or I do, you know, a mindset minute or I do a quote and write something and put it out there, I just feel good. And literally it's something that I could do all day. I mean, if I can contribute to individuals and help them feel better, help them grow, help them become better husbands, help them become better fathers, mothers, healthier, do well in business, whatever it may be. You know, that's my passion. That's what I love. Literally, I could do it every single day. You also know a little bit of the reason for these podcasts is I do mindset minutes. So, you know, if you go to my YouTube channel or you see me on Facebook, whatever it is, I do these daily, well, not daily, I'll say 5 days a week, these little 1-minute videos. And it's very hard to get all that I want to get across in 1 minute. I mean, I've gotten pretty good at getting some good points across, but in 1 minute, it's hard to do. So, you know, the reason for this podcast is I can extend and I can elaborate a little bit more on those mindset minutes. So really this podcast is for, you know, the parents, the father who's supporting his family, the mother who may be supporting the family. You know, you're trying to raise kids, you're trying to live a healthier life, you're trying to grow, you're trying to get better. And that's so important. Listen, one of the most important things we can do is grow every single day. When we do that, there's hope for the future. No matter where we are, if we can continue to grow and learn, it's such an awesome, you know, way to go through life. I mean, I'm getting older, I'm getting more gray hair. There's certain things I may not have as much energy physically, but mentally what gets me excited is I can continue to grow and be an impact, you know, hopefully till that day I die. And that's just incredibly important. So, you know, on this first podcast, what I want to do a little bit is tell you who I am. And I'm not going to do this every podcast or anything like that, but I think it's important to do it and tell you a little bit who I am, just so you have some context for what it is that we're talking about. And maybe we can relate in certain areas. You know, I don't want you to ever think like, well, who's this dude? He may not know anything, or does he even have kids? Does he even have a wife? You know, how long has he even been married? You know, does he even do good in business? I mean, he's giving me business advice, but I mean, really, does this guy know anything? And listen, I don't want you to think by any stretch of the imagination that I know everything. I mean, I try to learn and grow every single day. There's a ton of things that I do not know. And that's what kind of gets me excited for the future, because we can always continue to learn and grow, and I'm always striving to get better. So I want to spend just a titch on this first podcast really kind of going over who I am and then tell you a little bit more about our plan going forward. So who I am, first of all, I'm a Christian man. I love God with all my heart, so that's my foundation. I'm a Christian. I've been married for 20 years, been together with my wife for 24. We met in a gay bar on a straight night. Maybe I will get to that story in this podcast, but maybe that'll be a story later on. We have 4 incredibly beautiful children. Let's go back a little bit. I want to go back. Let me tell you a little bit about my marriage, just to let you know, because I don't want to gloss that over. Like I said, I've been married 20 years. My wife, I met her in college. Yes, we did meet in a gay bar on a straight night. She was a gymnast at Boise State University, and an All-American, just extremely focused, extremely, just hardworking, right? To be an All-American, you have to hit it pretty hard. I was actually a tennis player. So at that time, Boise State had one athletic weight room, and they used to not allow the tennis players to work out in the weight room with the football players and even the wrestlers and stuff like that. But we got to work out at the same time with the gymnasts. So that was a pretty good situation. We'll say it actually worked out. But anyway, she didn't give me time of day or anything. I tried to do the curls next to her and do the different things and just so incredibly focused. So it actually wasn't until we went to a gay bar on a straight night, had a few drinks, and then we started talking a little bit. And I'm like, hey, I work out. I'm the tennis player. And she had no freaking clue who I was, which is funny. So I had to work a little bit to get her. But listen, after 20 years, being together 24, I love her incredibly. And I think it's amazing, not to say marriage is hard. Marriage is a challenge. It's hard. It's just, it is what it is. You bring two people together that are different, which is good. You don't want to be the same, because I think if you're the same, you'll drive each other crazy. But we're different. But I can honestly tell you, after being married 20 years, being together 24, that I find her incredibly, incredibly attractive, both inside and out. My passion for her grows on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Now, if you were to talk to her, that's probably a little annoying, right? She's like, you need to back off, but it's true. I just love my wife tremendously. She's just an awesome wife, and she's an amazing mother, and does a great job. So that's my relationship with my wife. With my kids, I have four boys. I have a boy that is first year at Wichita State. He's a baseball player. He's a pitcher. Very, very, very good. He could have gone to the pros this year. He's got about 10 offers to go, but they saying if he goes to college and he gets a little bit bigger, that'll come out a first-round draft pick. So if he makes good decisions and he keeps working hard and keeps his mind right and keeps doing what he's doing, I have no doubt that he'll be able to extend his career in baseball after college. I truly believe that. I then have a boy, his name is Liam, that's in Wichita. Then I have a boy named Jace, and Jace is, I believe, is going to be our entrepreneur. I think he is just so incredibly smart and wise, and he knows how to use his mind, and he's just a smart guy. He's going to be our business guy. I don't know, exactly how he's going to do it or what angle, but I know that he is going to get it done. Tremendously talented in regards to how he is. And so incredibly smart, and will crush it, I feel, in business. Then we have Brock, who is 13, and Brock is just as good at Liam as baseball, if not better. So if Brock continues to do what he needs to do, and if he continues to work hard and make good decisions, I truly do feel that he'll be able to follow in Liam's footsteps. So. And then we have a little girl, our princess, who was an incredible gift, Hope, who's 9 years old at the recording of this podcast. And we adopted her the day that she was born. So an amazing gift. Just so incredible. It's just amazing. It could get me emotional just talking about her. But what an amazing gift that God gave us in her. And she's 9 years old, incredibly healthy. She is tough as can be. She's got 4 brothers. So when you got 3 brothers, excuse me, when you got 3 brothers, you got to hold your own. And she is going to be just an amazing woman, girl. She is so smart. She is challenging. If you have kids, I'm telling you, man, girls are more challenging than the boys. It's just more emotion, right? And guys, if you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. Moms, you know what I'm talking about. It just is what it is. And so that's the family. CrossFit, my wife and I love CrossFit. We go 5 days a week. That's kind of our activity right there, where we get there at the noon hour, lunchtime, and get CrossFit in. She kicks my butt. I love it. It's exciting to see my wife just crush me in an odd way, in a weird way, but I do like it. I've been in real estate for about 12 years. Have a really amazing team here in Colorado. We do extremely well in that. So, and then we just opened up. I partnered to open up a real estate office That is doing extremely well. We have about 15 agents. That is growing. I do coaching, so I do executive coaching. So I have clients that I speak with on a bi-weekly or monthly basis to help them continue their success, both inside of work and out. So that goes well. And I did write a book. So I did write a book maybe 10 years ago, Walks with Mr. Smith. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble. It's out and about out there. A small little parable, short read about 8 life lessons. So yeah, that's a little bit for me. I don't want to go on too long in regards to it, but that's a little bit of my life in a nutshell. So let me I want to talk about, a little bit of the past for context to know a little bit more. That was kind of a thing, but I think as we go through this, life is challenging, life is hard. It's not easy. And the whole idea of this podcast is to help us, take that challenging life and begin to win in all areas, begin to win in our faith, begin to win in our marriage, begin to win as a parent, begin to take, win in our business, win at home as a mom, whatever it may be, to win in our health, to go after the passions that God put in our heart. Life is challenging. It extremely is. And I want you to understand and get maybe a little bit deeper into maybe some past wounds that I've had, some past hurts, some different challenges that I've gone through. So later on, when we're in this podcast, you guys can relate a little bit. You guys can say, oh, you know what? Damon went through that. I remember him talking about that. Or when I tell you things that you're like, you can actually say, well, gosh, he may understand that a little bit because he did, was a child of divorce. There was other things. There was terminal disease that came into his life and lost something, a person that meant the world to him. So a little bit. So we'll go into it a little deeper. Yes, I'm an only child. My parents divorced when I was around 5 years old. Okay. It was, I would say, a nasty divorce. It wasn't that great. I remember some pretty crazy fights. I remember my parents fighting while holding me in their arms. I mean, just crazy stuff. I remember police involvement. My mom had main custody of me, so I was with her most of the time. She had men in and out of her life. I want to say, and I think some of this stuff you block out, when you're younger, it's kind of like a safety mechanism. You don't remember everything, and that may be an okay thing. I'm not sure. I'm not a therapist, so if you're a therapist, like, dude, you got some issues, you need to work it out. But, my mom, I think, was married 4 or 5 other times. I know a lot of men in and out of the house, a lot of relationships that she would bring guys in and they would try to play the father figure, this and that, and maybe didn't work out. I'd visit my dad on the holidays. That was tough. So, most of my time was spent in Louisiana with her. But my dad lived in Florida. So, school vacations during the summer, I'd have to get on that plane. I remember flying, at that particular time, you got like the airplane wings and stuff. And they brought you to like a little room and stuff in between airplane flights. The flight attendant, whoever it was, I can't remember at the time. But I used to go see my dad in the summer times and spend times with him, maybe a little bit during Christmas. And it was hard. It was hard, that back and forth. Another thing that happened when I was around 12 or 13, my mom and I were taking a trip to go see my uncle on a train. And during that whole trip, she had a pain in her side, a really, really bad, excruciating pain in her side. So when we got back to Louisiana, she had some tests run. Turns out it was a tumor, and it was a malignant tumor. It was cancer. At that particular time, my mom decided to not go through chemo, decided to not do radiation, and decided to do, holistic medicine was popular at that point. Maybe it is now, I don't know. But she ended up hearing about a doctor in Tijuana that supposedly got kicked out of the United States because he had a serum that could cure cancer. And the drug industry, blah, 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 didn't want him in the state. I don't know, some of those weird things. So we ended up moving I remember in the beginning of the summer, to San Diego. And really a lot of my that summer when we first moved was driving in the car with my mom to Tijuana, where she would literally stand in a line, meet this guy that I remember is just an odd looking character to begin with. And she would get her shots or this serum, and I would just kind of hang out and in Tijuana. Don't know if it was necessarily the safest thing. Well, after about a year and a half, the tumor kept growing and growing and growing. And obviously the serum was not working. So we had a step aunt up in northern California, Fort Bragg, Mendocino area, and we ended up going up there to basically just kind of finish out the last days of her life. And we were up there for about a year. My aunt had a small little cabin in the redwoods. I mean, really an amazing, amazing setting, in the redwood forest. I mean, it was beautiful, unbelievable. But it was really, really, really hard. My nights were spent listening to my mom basically cry in pain. She couldn't breathe. This tumor was taking over her abdomen, restricting her breathing, her lungs, spreading all over, and there's nothing she can do. I really think one of the big things to this day of why I sleep with a fan on and why I like noise is because that's what I used to do. I used to have to turn a fan on high so I couldn't hear my mom, crying and really being in tremendous pain in the other room. And it was hard. And I remember this one, I think it was a Saturday morning, I was going to go over to a friend's house to kind of hang out, maybe get away, this boy down the street. And she asked me that morning, she said, I don't want you to go, can you stay around? And it wasn't about an hour later, and sorry guys if I'm getting emotional, it wasn't about an hour later that I was in the front yard, just kind of hanging out in the front. And I remember the screen door opening, and my mom slowly walking out to me, telling me she loved me, and then she died in my arms. And that was it. That was literally it for my mom. And that was such a crazy, crazy, crazy time. It was such a hard time. I'll tell you, that's where my faith has kicked in tremendously. In an odd way, it was a relief. It was a relief for her. It was a relief for me. She had been battling this for 2.5, 3 years. It was hard. When we would go out in the public, when we would go to the grocery store or whatever it may be, people that didn't know her situation in town would come up and they'd say, oh, when's the baby due? And my mom was, because she literally looked like she was 9 months pregnant. And, she was so nice and she was polite that she would say, oh, it's due soon. And that would kind of be the end, and she would kind of walk off. And it was just hard, those situations, all those times that she had to go through that, and I had to be around during that time. So, I tell you that just so there's certain things, right? If you come from a family of divorce, if someone in your family is dealing with disease, if there's something going on in your life, with your parenting, with the kids, whatever it may be, I've experienced a lot of that. I've seen a lot of that. And I don't tell you that to brag at all. I mean, it's more like just so I can relate to you. So when we go through this journey together, that you can understand, maybe some things that we can encourage one another with. I haven't, for example, always been successful in regards, or quote, successful in regards to finances or business. I used to drive when I first came to Colorado, and when Julie and I, we were first married before we had kids. And during our first one, I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive to a warehouse in Commerce City, Colorado, drive forklift. And I used to work with guys that were, I think about 80% of them, 75% were on work release. And they would find time to sneak away during lunch and drink some beers and come back and want to fight. I mean, it was just crazy. And I did that for a year and a half, I think 2 years, getting up in that situation, being at different jobs and sales jobs and different things where I just was not making that much money, was not living up to my potential. It was hard on our marriage. It was hard on everything. It was hard, So it wasn't until I actually really started learning and growing and developing and finding my vision, setting goals and doing the small things every day that I started to make wiser decisions and started to become more valuable to the world around me. And when you become more valuable to the world around you and to the marketplace, that's when you're able to, your income or your worth goes up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying worth in the eyes of God. I'm not saying worth in the eyes of others, but I'm saying worth to the marketplace. And I think that's incredibly, incredibly important that you guys understand that. So this podcast, guys, why is this podcast and how can it help you? As I talked about, life is hard. It is. It's hard. I told you I passionately love my wife. We've been married 20 years, but it's hard. Mama's hard. Mama doesn't let me slide. I'm hard. I'm needy, right? There's certain things that I need. There's certain things that, I want that she may not always be willing to give, and vice versa. When you have two people to live together, it's hard. Marriage is not necessarily meant to be easy. Life is not meant to be easy, but it can be beautiful. It can be beautiful, in the hardships, in the things that we go through. As a parent, listen, guys, parenting is not easy. And I know some of the ladies, hopefully you're listening to this, you understand, you're shaking your head. It's true. If you want to do it right, if you want to be a good mom or you want to be a good dad, it is hard. You have to be on your game every single day. This morning as I was doing this, I was reading, and it's so interesting, the different choices. I'll tell you a quick little story. I was reading, I get up early to read, and Hope came in, our youngest little girl, and I had some coffee, and she came in so sweet, and she grabbed my coffee, and she said, "Dad, can I get you some more coffee?" And I said, "Yes, you can. That'd be awesome." And she was walking out of my office, and she hit her shoulder on the side as she was leaving, and spilled the coffee all over the floor, and kind of spilled it all over her, and she was really upset, just kind of upset, right? Now, listen, I'm telling you this story because you can have a choice. Now, some parents can look at that and it's like, oh my gosh, you spilled the coffee, get upset, get pissed, get annoyed. But all I did was, she was upset. I didn't tell her to clean up the coffee right away or anything like that, and probably because we have hardwood. But I said, Hope, come here. And I just held her, and she just cried in my arms. She hit her shoulder and actually part of her head pretty hard. So, you know what I'm saying? But it's just those little things, those little choices that, it was early in the morning. It was like 6 o'clock. And it was frustrating. Maybe she spilled the coffee all over. But it's just those things, those little things that you do, right? I could have gone the other way. But I guess the point of that, I don't want to go off track. And you'll find that sometimes I do go off track. But hopefully when I go off track, it's helpful. But the point of that is, listen, the point of that is I had a choice to make. Can I love on her? Can I support her? Can I just hold her? And that might seem so silly, right? But there's going to be times later on when she's 15, 16, 22, 28, whatever, 32, that she may make some mistakes. And it may be more than just spilling coffee, but she's going to get hurt. And if I do a reaction and I snap at her like, oh gosh, watch out when you're walking out, don't spill the coffee, do you really think that later on in life she's going to want to come to me or it's going to be a safe place? No. So my point is, you start young and you start working on these things, and it has to be a daily thing. You got to be on every single day, and it's hard. Moms, when you go through this, part of this podcast I want to be encouraging to you, and dads as well, but you may feel like you're not appreciated. You may feel like everything that you're doing every single day, that no one's listening to you, no one's paying attention, that you're working with the kids and it just doesn't seem to, be working at this particular time. I'm telling you, listen, as long as you're being an amazing mom and you're working hard and you're loving and you're encouraging and you're teaching softly and you're disciplining softly and you're showing them how you want them to live their life through your actions, and this is the same thing for the dads, if you're showing them how you want them to live their life through your actions and not just words, I guarantee you, I can't guarantee anything. I take that back. Sorry, I can't guarantee it. But you have a much higher chance when those kids are 25, when they're 30, when they're 35. They may go through some dips, right? And that's probably going to happen. I've done it. Really, I've had some pretty bad decisions, some bad years in my life where I maybe got away from God, where I got away from my faith, doing things that I need to be doing, made some poor, and they more than likely will go through that as well, right? Unless you just have an amazing child, it's like, oh my gosh, but listen, it will pay off. It will pay off in the future. And when you're sitting back and you have that tremendous relationship when they're 25 and they're 30, when they're 40 and you're older and you're playing with grandkids, all that stuff that you did or did not do when they were younger matters, and understand that. Understand. So I want you to give a little bit of encouragement, I guess, in regards to that. Now listen, a lot of this podcast is about mindset. It's about choices. It's about defining what success. I want to help you gain clarity in this. I want you to gain clarity of what success looks like for you. And a lot of what we do and a lot of what we go after in life is our mindset, the stories that we tell ourselves in our head. The stories that we tell ourselves in our head affect our choices, and our choices affect our results. So through this podcast, if we're talking about winning at work and we're talking about winning at home, we need to make sure our mind is right. We need to make sure our heart is right. We need to make sure that we're telling ourselves good stories so we can make good decisions, right? Just going back to the parenting, right? If we tell ourselves a story like, gosh, man, nothing seems to work. Anything that I say doesn't make a difference. I don't see it now. I'm going to freaking forget it. I'm just going to drink more glasses of wine and I'm going to sit on the couch more. And you know what? They're going to have to figure it out on their own and do their own thing, right? That's a story that you're telling yourself, and it's going to affect your choices, right? But if you tell yourself a different story, listen, it may not pay off right now. It may not be seeing the fruit of my labor, the fruit of my work with my kids, but I'm going to keep doing what I need to do because I know it will work, and I know it's the right thing to do, and I know it's my responsibility. So I'm going to keep working hard, disciplining softly, loving and encouraging them, whether they deserve it or not, right? That's a different story. So you have two different stories, but they affect your choices, and the choices that you make will give you the results. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to be working on things like that on this podcast. You know, we're talking about or working on things of how to be successful outside of work with business. I mean, listen, we got bills to pay. Last time I checked, you know, the homes that we live in, the food that we eat, the heat that heats our house, you know, that's not free. That costs money. So every single one of us needs to take the idea of making money, of earning an income seriously, because nothing is free. And we need to provide for our family. I'm not saying we need to get all these toys and different things like that, but bills need to be paid. Food needs to be put on the table, right? It is what it is. And I know that a lot of times one of the biggest stresses in marriage is finances. So we need to do good, whether both of the parents are out of the house working, or it's just one, it's the husband, it's the wife, whatever it may be. We need to do good, and we need to work hard when we're out in the workplace. It is what it is, guys. That's what we need to do. And how I look at life, how I look at different things, and I'm not sure if you're like me, I think we all are pretty much the same, but I look at different things like 4 tires on a car, right? I have my home life. I have, let's say, my work is one tire. I have my spiritual life is one tire, and maybe my health is the other tire. And if one is flat or one's messed up, the car does not run right? If you, for example, are crushing it in the workplace, if you're doing really good, you're busting it, you're working hard, you're making a good income, but you come home and your marriage is falling apart, you think that's good? No. And it's not sustainable. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you could also have a different situation where, you know, your marriage is going great, your wife's supportive, maybe your husband's supportive, but you're at work and you hate it, you don't enjoy it, you don't like it, right? Or you're not doing as good as you could be doing, and it causes pressure. And eventually it's not sustainable. It's not going to work out, right? You could be doing great at work, have an awesome marriage, okay, but you're maybe 20 to 30 pounds overweight, and you have this little inside voice telling you, gosh, I just don't feel good. I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy to continue to work as hard as I'm doing at work, right? I want to love my wife, and I'm loving my wife now, but I'm starting to get more tired. Okay? This weight, I don't know how long I can keep this weight on. I don't know how long I can eat this food that kind of brings me down, because I want to play with the kids, but it's getting less and less because I'm just tired. You see what I'm saying? So it all works together. It all intertwines together, and we need to make sure that we're not only winning at work, but we're winning at home, we're winning in our spiritual life, we're winning in our health, and we're doing the best I can. And listen, when I say winning, I don't mean that everything's perfect, and everything's going good. What I mean by winning is we're progressing, we're growing. That's what I think pretty much success is, right? If you're progressing, let's say you're in your marriage and you're progressing and it's getting a little better, I believe that's successful living. I'm not talking about success in the idea you make, $500,000 and you drive a, whatever and this and that and you have that. I'm talking about successes where you're living successfully in the most important areas of your life. And when I say successful, I mean you're growing, you're progressing, you're getting better. You're not staying the same, because there's no such thing as staying the same. You're not getting worse. Okay, your marriage isn't going backwards, it's going forward, right? Now listen, there's going to be times that yes, they're up and down. But basically, you're better, this year than you were before. That's what I think success is. So that's what we're going to be going through. We're going to be going and learning different techniques, different things, different, that I talk about in my Mindset Minutes, that I talk about in my coaching, different things that happen in my life, to really get into it, to really get into the meat and potatoes, I guess, of how we can begin to start winning at work, winning at home, winning in our spiritual life, winning in our business, doing the things that we know that we should be doing. Stop running around like, our heads cut off, and really identify the 1 to 2 to 3 things that's going to move the needle the most. And then you spend most of your time in those 1 to 3 things. We're gonna learn some pretty cool things. One of the big things that I am so passionate about is growing. And when I grow, there's so many different things that I learn on a daily basis, because I need to. Because as I said, life is hard, life is challenging. I got to learn how to do better in business. I got to learn how to do better in real estate. I got to grow. If not, I'll be obsolete. I got to learn how to become a better husband. I got to learn how to adjust certain things. I have to learn all these things, right? I have to learn how to take better care of my body. And when I learn these things, one of my passions is sharing it with you. I mean, my God, that's why I do the Mindset Minutes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just read that this morning. It's such a good thought. I'll pull over the car. I mean, I know in my town, I think people think that my car is broken down, or they're like, oh, there's that dude again off on the side of the road. What is he doing? I see him every single day somewhere in town off to the side of the road. I live in a kind of smaller town just outside of Denver, about 20 minutes, in a town called Brighton. So I think there's maybe like 50,000. So yes. So that's what we're going to do. That's what this podcast is about. This is the first one. Guys, we're going to be getting more into, like I said, the meat and potatoes of it. I hope this first one was good. I'm going to put out 2 of these per week. My goal is to put this out on Tuesday and put one out on Friday. Now, as I record this right now, I need to learn how to take this recording and actually get it up on Stitcher, get it up on iTunes, this and that. So, today is, what is today? Today's Thursday. I'm gonna work on getting that up. But I want you guys to know, listen, I'm excited with this journey. I want you to subscribe, however that's done on iTunes or Google Play or whatever it may be, Stitcher. Share this if you can share this podcast, if you think it'll help another person. This is really going to be coming from the heart, guys. One of the things that you'll find with me is there may be certain podcasts where you can tell my energy is high, and then and I might be in a crazy good mood, and then there may be podcasts where I'm not saying I'm going to be down, but I may be a little bit more emotional. It may be challenging for me, because I will let you know, I will share my heart. I want you guys to understand that. I literally care tremendously about individuals. I'm the kind of guy that looks in church and I try to look and see, I pay attention, but I look at that husband holding his wife's hand and I'm like, gosh, man, I wonder what's going on in their marriage. I think that's awesome. Hopefully they're doing well, you know, or whatever it may be. You know, I'll hand out candy at Harvest Fest, you know, in front of our real estate office. I'm handing it out. I'm looking at individuals' eyes and I'm trying to dig and I'm trying to see and I'm trying to feel how this person may be doing, what's going on in their life, what's their challenges. Is there a way that I can talk to them? Is there a way that I can help? And they may not even, right? They're just like getting a piece of candy from me and I'm thinking the other things, but that's true. I want you guys to understand that I'm just here to share my heart with you, and this is a journey that we're going to go on together. And as this journey goes, hopefully what we're all doing is we're learning how to live our faith. We're learning how to be a better husband. We're learning how to be a better wife. We're learning how to do the things that we need to do for our kids that's going to be impactful. We're learning how to take care of our bodies so we can go after the things that we want, so we can have the energy to do what it is that we want to do, that we can be that. You know, we have to have those big whys. A big why for me, a why I live a healthy life is because I had to watch my mom die in my arms at the age of 14. I had to watch her suffer for 2.5 years, a disease take over her life. Now listen, I understand that disease comes and you can work out, you can be healthy, and it just comes to take you. But I don't want it invited in. And that's one of the things why I try to eat healthy. That's one of the reasons why I work out, is because I don't want to invite it in, and I don't want any of my kids to ever have to go through what I had to go through with my mom. So that's a big why. And I want to help you identify your why, your reasons. You know, we're going to learn how to be successful in business. We're going to learn that you don't have to do 1,000 things, that it's not cool to be running around incredibly busy and you're not productive. And the end of the day, you're like, oh my gosh, I really actually didn't get anything done. We don't want, I'm reading a great book right now called Rest. And I'm excited to share that book with you because as you're listening to this, I'm sure a lot of you will like a little more rest. And we're going to go through a little bit of that book and the idea that it's not cool to run around like a maniac, acting like you're a workaholic, acting like you have no hours in the day and you just work, and that's it. And you have no time. That's not cool. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for your family. It's not good for business. It's not good for your clients. And we're going to talk about things like that. You know, I did a Mindset Minute a couple of days ago about taking a nap. Take a nap. It's unbelievable what a good 30-minute nap would do. Oh, I don't have time. Bull. I'm not going to swear. Bull crap. There you go. But listen, you do have time to do that. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna end it right here. Thank you so much for listening to the first Winning at Work and Home podcast. And I look forward to the next one. We're going to dive into really identifying some things to help us begin to live a successful life, to begin to win at work and win at home. Thanks, guys.